How you doing? Alright, so I got my proper audio back. Let me know if it sounds okay. No buzz and no latency. Just got a big cloud that just moved in front of the moon. Looks like it'll take a minute. What's going on, David? What's up, Miguel? And everybody joining. Give me a thumbs up on the audio levels and the clarity. And yeah, definitely gonna try for that Mercury transit. I was thinking about one of those quarks, but we'll see. I might just do it with the white light filter. I think it's gonna be a morning thing, right? Like around 11 a.m., at least on the East Coast. Maybe earlier. But it'll go like for 4 hours. Yeah, I really hope another storm hasn't moved in. I was getting all excited to show this moon. I spent the last few hours just looking through tons of different articles and watching all these videos on moon chats and moon discussions, the future of space, travel, etc. And it's kind of the same thing I've been talking about. I know a lot of people think we're doing things, but it definitely also feels very stagnant, and there's a lot of despair in terms of budgetary restraints and timeliness of things and interest. So just waiting for this cloud to pass right here. Everyone just joining. What's up, Ron? How you doing? I can see a few cracks in the clouds. I'm gonna reset the scope a little bit. Yeah, it's right about on its way. So I just want to talk a little bit about more about craters tonight and how. Let me see, am I coming through okay? Yeah, there we go. I want to talk more about these hexagonal and pentagonal craters that really defy any sort of impact logic. I know that it's a sore spot for a lot of people. I named the video something a little bit earlier. I'm going to use that for a different video, the apologists. But it was just more about, this concept of old world lunar geology and lunar understanding versus this new paradigm of potentially electric scarred surfaces. So I just want to talk a bit about that and wait till this moon shows up. And we're going to jump into a few different features: Ptolemaeus, Alphonsus, Sarzachel, right along the Terminator, and then a couple of others. And check out these kind of cornered craters that really are geometric. And so I was looking up one impact crater formation, looking up, 10, 15 videos there, and finding really a recurring theme of not really representing what the lunar surface looks like. Of course, went back and checked out a bunch of electric universe eyes and see the pattern, and Terra, what's it called? Damn. Let me get it right. Electro-TerraVision, exactly. Electro-TerraVision doing discharge in the laboratory, showing very clear dendritic ridges, the types of stuff we see on these flat-floored large craters, central peaks, smaller craters on the rims of larger craters, and definitely lattice-shaped geometric craters coming from electric discharge. Makes so much sense, and it's going to be hard to let go of the old paradigm, but I don't know, I almost feel like there are a few craters on the moon that are impact related, but looking at the ballistic tests and a lot of the stuff that actually NASA's put out in terms of what impact craters look like, I've started to curate a playlist, but if you just search that into YouTube, you'll find these really ridiculous experiments that don't actually look like what we see on the moon. And they kind of yada yada, and the video ends. Alright. I feel like it's gonna get clear in a second. Alright, let's try and get this audio a little bit righter. So I am using a different PC than I normally do in the past, that I have in the past. So I gotta get this latency right. It sounds okay to me, but I can reduce the effects on the vocals. But it's definitely the clearest in the past week or so. Let's reduce this a tiny bit, get a bit drier. Let me know if this is okay. It's coming clear, and if the audio level right here is good to talk over. So, as I said, I think we're clear right here. The big cloud has moved through. Nice shot of the moon. Yeah, this is the same setup I usually use in Logic, but I'm using this different PC sound card. PC, alright, 57.5%. I thought it was last quarter, but it's almost, I guess we could call it last quarter. Really beautiful right now, glowing yellow. And like I said, I've been aggregating more and more links to my playlists. I changed up some of the branding on the whole channel, the logo. And I also updated the description for the video with some links to other channels that are doing electric discharge in the lab, that are talking about plasma cosmology, and just doing really interesting observational science and thinking and philosophy. I really dig it. More jealous says, it's not bugging me, just sounds different. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna have to get used to how, this is the setup for now. I'm gonna leave the other PC in the back, near the back porch, so that I can do Jupiter and Saturn over the next few nights after the moon gets up too late. Like 2 nights it's gonna be a little too late to kind of stream it. I'd like to try for the 23 crescent, but we'll see about that. So last night, and for for a while I've been talking about this whole electric discharge creating craters, and the more I do it, the more it really just seems so simple and ridiculous that, I don't know, just looking at the hexagonal and geometric structures of these things, you really have to wonder how it could really be created, with what size object, if it was really an impact. And further than that, I want to talk a little bit about how the entire moon was formed. When you see the videos, or at least I think there are 2 or 3 different videos, but really the main one is the NASA Goddard one, where they show the entire evolution of the moon, and it kind of has this heavy bombardment period where these large impacts actually created what you see in front of you: Mare Imbrium, Mare Nectaris, Oceanus Procellarum, that whole Procellarum basin that houses Copernicus, Aristarchus, Kepler, the 2 rays from Tycho, and the Imbrium Basin, which is the Apennine mountain range, Sinus Iridium, that flows into Mare Frigoris. So it's postulated that this has happened by these massive impacts that created lava flow across the entire surface of the moon. But when you really try and put it into physical terms, it seems really illogical, actually, because impacts that size would actually blow such a hole in the moon and fragment it to the point where it wouldn't really be stable anymore. Imagine creating an impact the size of Mare Imbrium, which is a whole region above. Actually, I can put the reticle around it. I feel like my voice is very dry tonight, but bear with me, the weather is crazy, so hard to get it right all the time. So this whole region, or all these dark regions, the Maria, are all kind of blasted out by large impacts. So I urge everybody to take a look at that simulation of the evolution of the moon, and really consider maybe what an alternative could be. Yeah, what's happening? Happy Honey Big Bear. Hello, hello. What's everybody doing tonight? How y'all feeling? 1:57 a.m. I got a little bit of energy. Just been kind of down that moon rabbit hole, up into the moon wormhole, being bitten by mosquitoes all night, just vicious. But what can I do? That's the price you pay for trying to track the moon down constantly. Alright, a little distracted. Let's get some shoes going and... yeah, it's looking nice and sharp. I want to get zoomed in a bit, so I'm going to switch up the lens. I'll be right back. I'm gonna try and fix that. I think I know what the problem is. So, I got the desktop audio. I got OBS set up on a different computer, and I think I got it all wrong. So, bear with me. I'm just gonna try and fix this right here. All right, testing. Let me know if that solved it. That solved it. If I can speak. Is it delaying? What's up there, Z Proxy? How's it going? So I got rid of the extender. Yeah, it's OBS, and I have a mic, auxiliary unit, and a desktop audio, and I think I had the monitor on one of them, so I hope this fixes it. Does this whole album have an echo? All right, so tomorrow's stream will be correct. I'll have to deal with it tonight. Yay, sounds fine. Awesome. What's up there, Ed Chair? How's it going? I'm going to play some music in the background just to make sure both levels are coming through. Thanks for dealing with it. It happens. I'll play an old song that y'all know well. That's sounding okay. I feel you, like you know I'm an audio nerd, so I want to get it right. Ed Chair says the moon is a mystery, man. It really is. It's really got some amazing things going on. I find no dearth of excitement about the moon. I've spent the last like 3 hours, 4 hours just looking into all these different videos and theories, and you know, there's kind of a limit actually as to what you can find. I know that I probably just have to go to a library and or some archive somewhere, but online, man, YouTube is just, it like stops at some point, or it just turns really sour really quickly. And sour, I just mean like, what was I looking up? If you actually just look up crater formation, just experiments. So I started a playlist for it. I'm gonna keep adding to it, but for sure, you gotta go check out crater formation experiments and see how they really just don't match up. Sorry if I'm gonna repeat myself, but I don't wanna, that whole doubling thing, if nobody understood that or skips it, I'm just going to repeat what I said about this idea that hexagonal and pentagonal and other shaped craters that are really geometric in form really kind of defy this idea of all of them being impact craters. In fact, a lot of them really do have this shape, this geometric shape that kind of shows this lattice structure, and the fact that it's much more likely that a very strong discharge was hitting a point and kind of expanding from that center node and creating this lattice structure based on electrical fractal symmetry, as opposed to something hitting it and it creating what is very strict geometry. Yeah, that song does have echo. I don't know, now I'm totally lost on the audio, but anyway, I was talking about electric scarring for craters, and honestly, I think even craters are just like a misnomer at this point. Lunar surface features and kind of planetary geology in general really needs to be readdressed from the perspective of the EU. What's up, Fast-Paced 33? You can really imagine it. I mean, there are a bunch of different anomalies. I've been talking about it for a long time and I always get kind of scoffs, but the Tycho crater, the double ray formation that comes off to the left of Tycho, bottom right corner, is such a fascinating thing that really needs studying. And like, what is that? Like, what, did something roll across the surface? Did ejecta get spewed, 400, 500 kilometers away? And if so, the other thing about the ballistic impacts, or just impacts in general, is like the actual object that hit. So like what hit Tycho at like 90 kilometers across? Where did it just pulverize, There are those questions really for all the impact crater theories. Yeah, I got a bunch of clouds, your favorite. else was I reading up on? Alright, I'm just going to go through a couple more things while the cloud's clear. I'm going to do a zoom tour, a zoomage. Yeah, like even if there were impacts, no, actually, what I'm saying is that even if there were all these explanations for how there are elliptical craters and there are impacts on the moon, it's just really the anomalies are the actual hexagons, which is this crater right on the terminator. I'm going to just zoom in regardless of the clouds, just so we can look at it. Ptolemaeus is indicative of geometric structure, which is almost impossible with an impact. I mean, I'm just saying that, but it just seems like it's a very difficult thing to conceive of. Look at this crater chain. And I know the old school lunar theories on it. So, I'm obviously defying or just trying to redefine the concepts behind lunar geology for myself, but doing it live on stream. Yeah, it's just a little too cloudy right now. Let's get the wide shot and the pretty clouds. It's an awesome glow tonight too. Alright, what was I reading? So let's see. I was reading moon headlines. And just to see, you know, like this is 50 years after going to the moon, after walking around. So it's just this very stagnant series of articles, just always referential, always historical. I walked to the moon 50 years ago after Apollo. That's one article. Watch the replay of the Indian launching mission to the moon's south pole, so the Chandrayaan 2. So you try and look it up and look up some real footage from it, and all of the videos are really, really short. There's about 5 seconds of actual footage. And it turns into a simulation or a render, and then what happens is that's it. Now we just have to wait because there's this long period of time where the Chandrayaan has to orbit the Earth a bunch of times and enter cislunar orbit and eventually figure out if it can land. So there's this real dropout where we're really not following these missions actively. You'll get this little headline which just kind of pumps everybody up, and then it shows this. It actually never really shows actual footage from a telescope, for example. So you'd wonder, so I wonder, do the people who launch these rockets not have a large telescope like a CPC-11 just hanging out where they have their own pictures of the moon that they can take regularly? It seems like this, almost all these videos I watched today, about 99% of it is renders, and about 1% are, you know, footage from either Apollo or from LRO, which are images mapped to a sphere. It's just a crazy, crazy thing how devoid of actual lunar imaging there is in these articles and presentations. FastPace says, I used to have a book that had a map-like picture of the backside of the moon, or the far side. So actually I have, this is, you know, I have a whole series of tabs open. At the very far right of my tabs, I have 3 pictures from the Zonde missions, Zond 8 missions that look absolutely unbelievable. And yeah, it makes me really, you know, just live on stream, I'm gonna say it, I really feel like I guess robots can go to the moon and to planets, because these pictures are almost impossible to fake. But it really shows Earth amidst stars with the moon underneath it, and I really question everything, but this looks fairly realistic. So I'm going to post this link real quick in the chat so y'all can see what I'm talking about. but at the same time, I was also looking up like Lunar missions, the Luna missions, all the Russian stuff, and the lack of images is astounding. You'd think that there'd be hundreds of images, but there are like 10. These are a couple of the ones from the Zond missions that just, I had to kind of dig for like a good 15 minutes to find this. So those are a couple of really interesting photo galleries. So the far side of the moon, just seeing some of these pictures from the L pod, you know, it's very hard to fake these things because it really does look like the moon that I feel like I know really well. So I don't dispute the fact that there's some sort of technology that allows flying around the far side of the moon and taking photos somehow. However, there is some sort of like lack of photos of it too, considering how many missions have supposedly gone around the moon. There are animations where it shows all these different orbiters, and that also makes me think about a lot of the transits that I've captured and that have been captured online. Like, what are these besides the LRO and I know that there's a Grail mission which had 2 little mini sats, and like, has anyone really captured those? Is there a log of that? That's a whole kind of thread that really no one really thinks about, but why isn't there a ton of footage of these satellites crossing in front of the moon by high-powered telescopes? Or maybe there is, and it's just not online. Ed Chair says, radiation should have destroyed any film through the radiation belts. That is definitely a good point. It's one of those kind of, it's not usually the first thing that's brought up when it comes to the Apollo conspiracy chat. I kind of, every time right before starting a stream, I'm always like, should I talk about the Apollo conspiracy? And I guess I'm gonna talk about it just from this perspective of how it's been merged with other conspiracies right now. So you can't really question anything about Apollo without being accused of being a certain type of conspiracy theorist. But I think it's still a very valid line of questioning. I feel like maybe, yeah, it's very easy to send a little satellite with a camera, take photos, swing around the moon. Maybe that's been happening for a long time. But this idea that you can walk around and really survive on the surface of the moon is just an astounding feat that no matter where you look, if you try and find the story, like why did the Russians never walk on the moon? Or why has no other country either attempted it or has done it? The kind of first level excuse that you get is, it was a space race and America won, therefore no one ever did it. It's just the most illogical, I mean, complete non sequitur and a completely meaningless excuse for that. And I understand why people get annoyed by that, because it's just an annoying excuse. It means almost nothing. Further than that, the whole America lost interest in the moon as an excuse for not going back is also a completely ridiculous excuse. And yeah, things like that just come up all the time in chats. And so you've added those types of things to the conspiracy debate. And further than that, if you even question anything like that, you're accused of many other things. So I don't know, where I stand on it is that I just want an open lunar mission. I just want a camera on the way. I want a rover on the moon taking photos of Earth that look unbelievable. So I'm hopeful that maybe one day, but I'm also skeptical because it just doesn't move. But I'm not disappointed because I'm doing the work myself, getting pictures of the moon. But it's really kind of this stagnant space culture. So okay, let me just go through a couple more things. So those were a couple of CNET articles about the Chandrayaan thing, Walk on the Moon, some nostalgia. All right, Esquire says, stories from people who didn't watch the moon landing. Time magazine says, here's every single mission to the moon in one chart. USA Today, conspiracy theorist punched by Buzz Aldrin still insists moon landing was fake, which is just some fucking BS from USA Today. Because, so what? They're so proud to promote violence and to laud Buzz Aldrin for punching Bart Sibrel, who's just a person with a legitimate question. So what? Like, honestly, that's part of the Apollo conspiracy stuff that's just so annoying, where if they really went, see, I immediately go there, but I leave it open, it's possible. Maybe they went, but if they did, there would be no violence, there would be no retaliation, there wouldn't be all these different apologists making up tons and tons of TV shows explaining why it really happened, defending what is essentially a government agency, while at the same time talking about all these different rights and everything on Twitter that you read. I'm trying delicately not to talk about any specific topics that are touchy or depressing, but really it's stuff like that. It's like, you give a shit, but then, oh, you can't touch this sacred event. No one's ever going to talk about it. I'm just jumping back into the chat. Sorry if I've been ignoring. Let's see. Yeah, so the radiation destroying the film is a great question. Like, I've gone through the 8,000 or so maybe photos on Flickr of the Apollo missions. There's some unbelievable shots that are very hard to, that I think would be impossible to fake. However, you can kind of mix that up, and I wonder if that was taken just with a Lunicod style orbiter, because these shots are gorgeous, but they really don't change in terms of aperture or frame. Like, the camera is basically a stagnant camera. The other thing about kind of comparing the Apollo pictures to other pictures of other countries like Russia, I don't know, the Chinese rover stuff is very, very suspect. I don't know. It's just me, or they develop, like, China is not just, you know, what they show on Chinese YouTube channels. I mean, China basically produces almost all the technology that we use. So somehow all the footage is extremely low resolution, all the technology is extremely low tech when it just comes to the one circumstance where it would be necessary for it to be high tech. And you know, you understand why people get pissed off by shit like that, because it's really annoying. Who do you ask, or who do you lobby to get to use a better camera or a certain type of device that would allow people to really see this mission in all transparency? It just doesn't occur, and then you can't really question it because it's some YouTube channel of a YouTube channel of a YouTube network tied back to RT News at some point or another, or CNN or BBC. It's the same mouthpieces regurgitating the same sort of shit. And even if it's real, like, the people who report this stuff know nothing about what they're talking about most of the time, and just, like I said, regurgitate some headline that was given to them by an unknown to us. Yeah, what up, Duplicat? Says, history made, Buzz punches the first troll, ha ha ha. I mean, I don't know if you're being sarcastic, you're probably being sarcastic, but it's really hard not to stand up for Bart Sibrel. He's really chatty, and he really talks over everybody, but I mean, unless he's a total robot, programmed and, with all the empathy, you can really feel it on him. The guy's passionate about it, and he's really convinced. And it's really hard to see him juxtaposed with this guy, Buzz Aldrin, who seems really like, a Madame Tussauds wax figure just being marched around like Stephen Hawking was. With no detail, no passion. Everyone's like, Buzz is so cool because he's, he punched somebody, which is really not a great value, or nor is it ethical. And it's just not cool. It's just a stupid thing in our culture. Violence is just, I think we've had enough of it. Most people have. And somehow people associate being manly or strong with hurting other people. And that's just stupid, I think. Bart Sabrell, like, yeah, totally kind of annoying on chats and repeats the same shit. A lot of people don't like that he just repeats the same story that he has, but he's really convinced. Mostly he says a lot of the same thing, which I agree with, which is either, actually he doesn't talk about plasma cosmology, but he says, 50 years, why can't you do it? No one else can do it. There's no really good reason why not. And I agree with that. I've always been, in a way, annoyed by the whole, like I said, America lost interest. America has no say in NASA budget. America has no say in what they do, who says what, at all. Like, that was never a thing. The Cold War is a really suspect epoch with a ton of events that are shrouded in mystery and rewritten history. And you can't tell, like, the Cold War sub-story or whatever, what was it? I'm trying to, damn, it is a little bit late talking about all these little facts, but just the stuff that you look up, you realize that this could have been a play that was very public. In the private sector, they were just working together to advance technology. So a lot of different options with the moon. It's not just this aggressive, like, you did it and the flag and all this stuff. And I'm trying to jump back into this chat room here, not forgetting everybody. All right, let me put on some tunes in the background. Let me get this long. I'm pumped tonight. I don't know, because every time I do these streams, sometimes, like, I'm not prepped and I think back, I'm like, how have I missed something? And no, it's the same thing every time, year after year. Moon missions announced, moon missions canceled, conspiracies shrouded in insults and bullying and mixing it up, not allowing people to talk about any specific details. Like I said, this channel is one of those things that I wanted to do where I want to invite everybody, people on all sides of different conspiracies. So I'll say directly that I'm not a flat earther at all. And I wasn't a flat earther the day I got a telescope. And the people who know that, like Z-Proxy and Cosmic, know that specifically. So I'm gonna say that, but it just does not mean you can't talk about whether or not the government, defrauded the American public, possibly. And also really less so about the money, more about the passion, the emotion, this kind of rah-rah nationalism that we feel about the moon, like, but there's a lot of really crazy shit going on with ownership of the moon, with secrecy, and it shouldn't be like that. The moon should be something that's really open and transparent and for Earth and for everyone. And it's talked about like that, but it really isn't like that in physical reality. A lot like this whole plasma cosmology and relativity. It's talked about in this way that, oh, we figured everything out, it's all fine, we got ages for everything, we got answers for everything, just shut up, sit down. But really, they, I don't want to say the powers that be, because it's not just them, it's, it's everybody involved in these fields. I'm gonna run into puns constantly, who are not addressing field theory. These guys are not all to blame, but we live in a culture of not being able to shift in science. And a lot of people think it's nefarious. Some people think it's just because there's no funding or passion behind it. I think it's probably a bit of both, probably a bit more nefarious than people want to believe. So that's always bugged me, because people believe that, there's a banking crisis or the airplane or whatever, or the bailout of the airlines, or Obamacare, any of these things that people think the government screws up on. But no, space program, no screw-ups, total honesty. There's this weird loyalty and kind of idolatry of that whole thing. And I understand it's because people really love space. That's partly why it's such a touchy conspiracy, and people are so spent so much time trying to defend this event, as opposed to actually doing some lunar like imaging or looking into lunar geology or looking into new sciences. That's what I really want to say. I've just been rambling for like 30 minutes to really say, like, all the people who spend time, like Phil Plait and what's her name, Vintage Astronomy, and all the people who just apologize for the Apollo missions. There's this strange, like, it's not strange. If you're paid for it and that's your mission to do it, then it's going to be really fun. But it is this strange kind of collaboration of never moving it forward, just always looking back and being like, nope, that was great, that's it, we're done. Why look at anything? It's completely boring. I mean, what's the point? Settled. And that's just really annoying. I just got to say that. And also, that's really boring. That behavior of making everything just passé and blasé and just stupid and like, oh yeah, been there, done that. The fact that Obama even said that is just such a ridiculous thing that people didn't immediately say, that's insane. Why would anyone talk like that? Nope, but people shrug it off because we've gotten accustomed to clowns. All right, I'm gonna go through the chat now properly. Jesus had 12 disciples and NASA had 12 disciples. What's up, effed up world? Yeah, I mean, can't deny the numbers, the numerology, gematria behind Apollo. I don't get into it deeply because it is its own world of understanding that, but it is there for sure. Also the naming, the badges, if you look at all the symbology and the mythology behind it, you'll see incredible intricacy. So that's what really bugs me about it. It's like there's so much granularity that went into naming Apollo and making movies about Apollo and making movies about defending Apollo, but nothing about actually going to the moon now. You know what I mean? It's just so freaking insane. I guess I've said fucking on this show. It's a late night one. Maybe we'll see if I'll keep this one up because I've been saying a lot of crap. But I don't know, it would be nice to be able to be unified on the moon front, even if it's just to make it normalized and have normal moon travel where we just see people going back and forth to the moon and then government can still make money on it. But the fact that it's this just impossible thing to get to is crazy still. Yeah, that's how it feels. Z-Proxy says, people still believe Grandpa made it to the moon. Wait, how much have I missed? Holy crap, Salvador. I wish I knew what made those hexagons on my baby. Yeah, so if you check in the link's in my description, you'll see a bunch of different channels under recommended links, and you'll see what I think made those craters hexagonal. Just very intense plasma discharge between the moon and possibly Earth or Mars at some point in our potentially recent past. It could also be ancient. Apparently there was a time on Earth where the pre-Lumerians, where we didn't have a moon. But I don't know for sure about that. What I know now is I'm looking at the moon. We're looking at the moon, and I'm going to zoom in on a crater that is it's called a crater. I was talking about it earlier, it's just called lunar formations. This thing right here, you can see 6 sides, and then the crater right underneath that basically I guess also has 6 sides, but could be a pentagon. But yeah, this is supposed to be an impact. And then the secondary, there are some videos or some articles that I read that postulate the same sort of thing. They're like, well, hexagonal crater new discovery type of thing from 2018, talking about how it's a volcano actually. But this is a massive feature. What up, Reptilian? Just want to pull up my atlas real quick. Yeah, the crater that we're looking at here, the hexagonal one, is Ptolemaeus. So the idea here would be that probably at that little kind of craterlet to the top right, that was probably the touch point of a massive lightning bolt, essentially, is what you want to visualize, coming from the interaction between the moon's magnetosphere or field and whatever other, either maybe Venus as a comet, perhaps Mars, perhaps Earth as it was kind of locking orbit with Earth, or maybe it came from somewhere else and these features were formed by electrical arcing between the moon and something else entirely. So I don't know what that is. I just know that I've been kind of trying to get off the fence about impact versus electric, and it really seems like this is the one thing, you know, geometry, lattice structure. This is because it's emanating outwards in a shape that is actually resonant. Yeah, and it's found in nature, you know, the honeycomb pattern is because we are electrical beings, and bees are beings too, and they kind of build and navigate in geometric structure. So the one thing that doesn't happen though is if you see ballistic experiments, you'll see these kind of mound-shaped remnants with the actual object, and that object needs to go somewhere. And second, you'll see these other types of impacts where you have two layers of surface and they'll smash it with like a metal or lead ball, and you'll see the kind of impact ejecta. And I will say that there's one experiment where they do it and you see the ejecta and it kind of looks like Copernicus a little bit, and you can be fooled by that. But really, if you look at Copernicus up close, which I will go to right now, you can see the dendrites. It's very simple. It's like these things are not really, I mean, I guess there could be ejecta from plasma discharge that large, but you can see the patterns, so to speak. I want to find my filter on this new OBS setup. Let me know if I missed you in the chat. Hope y'all are feeling all right. Just hanging out here with the mind to show some of this electric cratering. So I hope the skies work with me. All right, where's my filter? Where's my filter at? There we go. All right. So add color correction. There we go. Sweet. And if I'm completely wrong about that, and not just me, obviously Thunderbolt's project has been doing those videos for a while about lunar scarring and planetary scarring by discharge, so definitely not my idea. But I'm just showing it in real time and almost helping myself understand what this is all about. What up, Fantasy? Bonus question says, where in the body are dendrites found? I'll let that sit for a second before I answer it. Reptilian says, it looks like impact. All right, I can hear that. Like, I'm still figuring it out. But I feel like Copernicus as well has geometric structure. It itself is a hexagon. And then what about the extension rays right here of Kepler? I'm gonna hit up the contrast so you can really see it. It would be much easier to just settle on impact and move along, but since this is what I do, I've been watching the surface for so long, really trying to understand these reaches of the like what looks like filamentary structure, networking outwards from these center points, and the kind of just mismatch of laboratory experiments on ballistic results. So I know that it's one of these things that's very common to just shrug off and say, you know, it's definitely impacts, what are you talking about, that's just crazy. But really go look at laboratory impact lunar craters and look up do that research for a few hours, and then take a look at the discharge in a laboratory by Billy Yelverton, and check out the links in the description of this video. Chronos, Electric View, Electric Universe Eyes, See the Pattern, Greg J, and of course Thunderbolt's project. And you'll see that it's much more likely that these planets interact with and exchange, like, I guess, Birkeland currents that go through different phases, like, what is it? It's arc mode, dark mode, arc mode, glow mode. There are different phases of the plasma current. And once you see it in a little vacuum chamber, you can really extrapolate it outwards. Definitely doesn't work for impacts for me. Although I'm happy to be I'm happy to look at evidence that shows otherwise. Yeah, it's like neurons in the brain, kind of node points that have very strong electrical pinches, I guess. And then the further explanation would be the kind of radiance and the white reflectivity of these features. Like right now, looking at Aristarchus, it is a bit kind of gross out, so it's not as clear as I'd like. But if you look at kind of that very, very bright white, I guess this might not really be classified as transient lunar phenomenon, because it's not actually actively like outgassing or like sparkling, but it is definitely glowing white. And I guess once, you know, one of the explanations for that would be the fact that that would be the touch point of the plasma discharge arc, and once it disconnected, it left residual either magnetism or electrostatic peaks at that point. And so a lot of these features have that same sort of radiance to them. Definitely navigating my way through explaining this, so thanks for bearing with me. FNord99, ha ha ha, somebody finally noticed the hexagons. I guess I've just been more vocal about it, and I'm being very vocal about it tonight, but yeah, I've been, I guess, a year or two really sunk in. Right in the beginning, the first time I saw the Thunderbolts project video about it 4 years ago, I bought it, so to speak. It was a great idea, but I didn't want to immediately just believe it because they said it. So I really wanted to do all the footage I could, and ultimately we're here now looking at this stuff. Y'all can see it and assess it, and if it really looks like impacts to you, then it is. But to me, it really looks like a very recursive type of seed structure with nodes and dendrites, Lichtenberg patterns, fractals. It's kind of obvious, it's almost cliched, but there's still a lot of excitement because we're looking at actual lunar structures right now instead of renders, and that's just the difference. For extra credits, invert the color. How about that? I gotta adjust the focus too, I guess. Yo, what up, FE dude? How's it going? Alright, I'm gonna get myself a drink and play a couple of tunes for y'all, and I'll be back on in a couple. Now I'm finally ready. It's good to have snacks. Let me pause this for a second. See what's going on in the chat room. What's up, Jen Perry? Am I listening to Phil Collins? I can do a bit of Phil Collins here and there. hand. You know me naturally. Still waiting for your soul. Still waiting for your heart. And I can't wait much longer. Oh, can't wait much longer. Still I gotta know, was it way back home when you saved me? Back home when you saved me, was it bitch home? Did you save me? Alright, just wanted to jam a little bit. It's been a long time since I did that. And the guitar is still busted. I did open it up and check it out, but it wasn't anything to do with the soldering, so I feel like it's probably the pot, zip pot, that needs replacing. Alright, let's zoom in on some lunage. Get up to Copernicus again. Let's see its hexagonalicity. Chat went really quiet, although there's a bunch of people in there. What's up, everybody? You know how I do. If you haven't heard me, I just mess around till I find something that sounds okay. All right, let's float around some Aristarchus. Aris so Starkus. Yeah, really not as clear as I'd like, but we're here with our moon and we'll play. Falling like a feather, yeah. Everyone who knows, loves, 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 loves you best will float. The storm is coming, baby, yeah. Everyone who loves, 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 loves you best. Float, falling like a feather, yeah. And baby, I know, better look out for me. When you float, formidable opponent, angry lecture. Formidable opponent, you can walk out. Formidable opponent, formidable opponent, think you have the choice. Formidable opponent, you just let you. Formidable opponent, angry crackpot, formidable opponent. Formidable opponent, think you had the choice when you float. I wandered through this dream, far away from my sinking body. I dragged into this place, back from time and space. I was in line for another party. Need a little more verb on this, touch more for the song, right? Old school, there we go. Oh, my neighbors are pretty cool with this, I think. They've gotten used to this. They've gotten used to right. Wandered through the stream, fly away from my sinking body. I'm dragged into this place, back in time and space. I was in line for another party. Mama done came along, she asked me where the hell I thought I was going. I said, I got nothing to hide, and nowhere sounds pretty good to me. I'm staying with my dream, I make believe in the light of the moon come down. Mama, oh, don't make them come round in the depth of your frequency star. Oh, don't tell them come now in the light of the moon. I will steal your heart, steal your heart, steal your heart. Welcome to the greatest place on earth. It was your lively intervention. Our the favorite since birth. The longest chair in my imagination. If you speculate the worth of a lifetime in search of good intentions, you'll find out what to do. If you don't, man, then you're screwed. You'll burn in search of the truth. Make believe in the light of the moon come out. Pretty mama, oh, don't make them come round in the depth of your frequency star. Oh darling, no, don't make them come round in the light of the moon. Oh, I will steal your heart, steal your heart, steal your heart in the light of the moon. I will steal your heart, steal your heart. Man, I haven't done that one in a long time. Full flex, 3 in the morning. Hope that was sort of okay. I was trying to channel the old days. Staying up late with the moon, it's pretty cool for you. I'm going hoarse every night trying to talk about new space. I am. Damn. Alright, take a breath. Oh, what up? Somebody somewhere? Maybe suspicious observers? Yo, what's happening? Welcome. Caught me on a return to my proper audio setup. I've been scoping out my back porch for the last week, so it's been really difficult with the audio. Catching up with some guitar playing, some jams. And earlier I was talking about how hexagonal craters really defy impact logic. So if you're interested in any of that, you can check out the description of this video and others to see recommended links, and also check out the playlist archive if you haven't, because I've been updating that. Maybe I play a little jam, perhaps. Actually, no, I kind of want this video to stay up, so I'm not going to do anything from other channels. It gets flagged right away, honestly, if I do anything. Even those backing tracks get flagged. So let me see, maybe I'll put one of mine on the background. What is... There's Serenia. Oh, also Sully's, what's going on? Oh, not covers, I just meant like blues backing tracks. Sometimes I kind of run a solo over stuff like that. But also cover songs are fun, but I definitely stopped doing that a little while ago. FUK covers, FUK. Hey now. Alright, just let me find the right thing. Serenia is a bit off tune, let me see. I'll do something a little more jammy. forgot this chord progression. Neglected the moon a little bit. Come back, and here we go. Looking pretty nice. Little flops. It's been a while. Get real goofy, real goofy. It's late, man. I can't even believe how late it is. All right. Ooh, sorry about that. Maybe something a little chiller. Yeah, I like this one. So now I know that the audio is working okay. I can play some tunes. Hopefully tomorrow it'll also be clear. Come on around this time, we'll do like the 45% waning crescent. Talk more about geometric craters. So I was saying earlier about the formation of the moon. If you really look that up, you'll see that the really primary video that everyone looks at is the evolution of the moon on the GOTO channel. And you see like the implications there are that these giant impacts created Mare Imbrium, the whole Oceanus Procellarum basin, this essentially all the dark region that you're looking at right now. And it's just a remarkable claim, and it feels really insane to kind of just digest it. So I feel like there's a lot of intrigue into how the moon was formed and why we have such amazing geometry on it. Love how the Apennine Range is just peeking into the Terminator right there in the middle. It's a damn lie. Yeah, I don't know. It feels like a strange thing when you see it kind of coming together, and so that whole kind of dark region would become lava, and then harden, and then you'd have bombardments that would create the other three features, or all the other kind of larger features that we're looking at: Aristarchus, Copernicus, Kepler, and others. And I just have a really hard time understanding how that would work physically. Much more likely that this whole kind of region, the highlands, were actually eaten away, almost like bacteria displacement, as you know, the surface was heated from these massive discharge interactions. That's just a way to look at it. I'm talking over myself as always. Go back to the top. What up, Justin T? How's it going? Yeah, let's zoom in on the mountain range. And I can go back through a couple of links that I want to do. So I was reading some of the news things. So Buzz punched Brett Sibrel. 1969, Soviet spacecraft reaches moon, but crash landing is suspected. New York Post, here's what we left behind on the moon. Vox, Buzz Aldrin carried a tiny book with him to the moon. Florida Today, moon trees planted from seeds taken to the moon on Apollo 14 are dead and forgotten. BBC says, where were you when man first landed on the moon? So all these seem perfectly normal, but you think, like, the fact that there's this idea that people actually walked on the moon 50 years ago, why are these the headlines that we have? Essentially, none of them relate to any granular space mission or rocket that is capable of going to the moon, or any program that's actually scheduled with details. So that's another day logged with that occurrence. It's happened to me for, what, going on 10 years now when it comes to the stagnancy of space. And another day goes by. Let me know if you feel the same. I'm gonna switch it over. I kind of hate going through headlines, but I did look up things like 2005 moon news. That's really interesting to check out articles from 10 or 15 years ago. Anything beyond 1980, 1999, 98 is pretty hard to find, but you can definitely find interesting things from 2005 where they talk about their plans of going to the moon. And it just really is the same type of rhetoric that we're hearing today. Kind of just same excuses, same issues with the budget. And, you know, it really comes down to will, honestly, who wants to do it and who gets that going. So further than that, let me see, there's a Moon Fountain article about electrostatic anti-grav type of stuff, or like extra electrostatic dust in the lunar atmosphere. So references to electricity, en route to Mars, the moon. Sorry, I'm just kind of fumbling through a few of these articles, but yeah, just an interesting line of research, just old articles. And then I found this other one small step for Hollywood, question mark, in Russia denying moon landings may be a matter of national pride. And I found it really kind of obviously, well, I don't know if obviously, I've never seen this whole Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty website before, but it's kind of this idea that because people in Russia really don't believe that the Apollo missions happened, that they're doing it because they're pissed that the Americans beat them to it. And I think that insinuation is just so ridiculous. People don't really care about that at all. I think in general people just want to know if we can go to the moon or not. But it's implied that all the people who doubt the missions are just skeptical because they're jealous. It's an easy way to write off an interesting line of questioning. So anyway, another article like that, pretty typical. And then the Royal Society from 2014 about the origin of the moon, and the guy completely just setting up this idea that the moon is definitely 4.5 billion years old, and that's it, we figured it out. Pretty depressing. He sounds really sad. Then the SETI Institute, back to the moon, this time to stay. And all of them don't mention a thing about Halton ARP, plasma cosmology, alternative astronomy. The results of any missions have no footage of the moon at all. Of course, for an hour and 15 minutes from the SETI Institute, no footage. NASA's annual budget is $21.5 billion, represents 0.49% of the $4.4 trillion that the United States plans to spend this fiscal year. So that's a thing. 20 billion is chump to a few people nowadays on Earth. I had a list of billionaires, but I'm not going to list them out. But you can check that for yourselves. People who could afford to just set up a moon mission today. Not going to happen. And then the Lunicod missions, I posted a link earlier for that. Oh, I know what I was going to talk about. May as well just, I'm going to start talking about this pretty regularly, but this whole idea of the reflector being left on the moon, being evidence that we walked on the moon, is just one of those straw man arguments, because there's this thing called Operation Moon Bounce, which happened way before Apollo put a reflector on the moon. I'm going to put this link in the chat. This is a pretty good Smithsonian link. Duplicate says earliest theories would naturally be the simplest to comprehend, but observations evolved to show more detail. It's difficult for enthusiasts and experts to see what may also explain orbiting bodies. It's strange, I think about it all the time. I'm like, do scientists really not see the plasma connection, and have they never heard of people like Halton Arp or Walt Thornhill or Velikovsky at all in circles like teaching circles or lab scientists? They don't go on YouTube or anything like that. It's always so strange. It's such a black hole of understanding whether people actually check things. For me, it seems kind of absurd that that doesn't happen, but maybe it doesn't. But you'd think that taking any of those, any like seeing red, or Halton Arp's Compendium of Peculiar Galaxies, just that it would be really obvious to any astrophysicist that they're looking in the wrong place, and there wouldn't be all these articles about being baffled anymore about, quasars and black holes and dark matter. That should have been ended ages ago, right? It just seems so strange. You don't see any of that being resolved or talked about on any level. Again, I'm going to say it just so that when it happens, I said it. Walt Thornhill and them should be doing live streams with everybody from the EU, like way more regularly, and posting like every day. Otherwise, they have that kind of momentum, like them and Ben Davidson and a couple of channels, actually really just them, which I want to say others, but really the others that I link to in the description of this video. Like Greg J has about 9,000, Electric TerraVision has about 700, Electric Universe Eyes has about 1,000, I'll say Cronus is about 1,200, See the Patterns about 1,200, and Suspicious Observers is about, what is he, like 400,000 or so? And that's, I'm sure I'm going to find a lot more, but those are the primary ones besides Thunderbolt's project. Billy Elverton stopped posting. Kind of the rest are really shrouded in conspiracy. I don't know. I mean, I'm talking about conspiracy stuff, of course, and people are going to think I'm a hypocrite, but it's fine. I think it's okay to talk about conspiracies, just to be open-minded about things, because everything could change. We could be totally wrong about everything. We could be right about everything. You never know. So right now, I think that it's just an amazing thing that we just sit here, and I know what I was going to say earlier was the whole apologists for the moon missions who spend really all this time making videos. I think like it's just, I can't understand how, well, I said it yesterday that they probably making money from it, or somebody's trying to hire them to do it. But these videos where you're just kind of defending these acts, it's like making YouTube videos about old NFL games and that people dispute, or going back and looking at Lance Armstrong videos and saying, no, he wasn't doping or anything like that. It's just such a weird thing to want to defend instead of actually going out there and doing real science. I mean, even the older generation that kind of sit around at chats at the Royal Observatory or the Griffith Observatory, and they just lament the situation when they have access to NASA people, they have access to scientists, and they have access to writing articles that will be seen by millions, and they don't do it. They don't ever mention anything like plasma cosmology or Halton Arp or Wall Thornhill, ever. But they'll definitely reference Star Trek, memes, Joe Rogan, and Vsauce, because those guys are like, you know, for sure. They know everything about space ever to have ever happened, and it's all pretty boring, you know. I don't know, I feel like those channels try and convey so much joy, but they're so devoid of any excitement at all, because you can just see it. There's this weird kind of robotic presentation of regurgitation. See the Pattern is killing it, hell yeah. I gotta say, this other channel, Ancient Architects as well, I'm gonna put him in the chat, in the description as well, but I like that guy. He's doing really cool stuff. I wish he would really talk about plasma cosmology, because he still entertains certain theories, but I don't know, I think he did mention sympathetic resonance and cutting things with light and lifting things with sound. So I thought he has a good grasp on it. Whoa, my finger. It's fake wholesomeness. I mean, I don't like to, because I really don't want to judge people. I don't know if they themselves know even what they're doing is wrong or what is harmful to science, but this kind of idea that, oh, take the entire joy out of it, we've done it, been there, done that, settled science, you're an idiot, shut up, sit down, it's already been solved, leave it to the professionals. That whole mentality is just killing open debate. It's killing thinking, it's killing critical thought, it's killing perception, and it's stagnating the entire scientific movement. Really, like, I mean, I'm not the only one saying it. I'm just pointing out the connection between all of it and why it's there. But it's so obvious when you see some of these links that I was posting, or just look them up yourself. Look up just people talking about anything from Saturn missions to Earth missions to political influence on space to deep sky stuff. There's just this real depression, and people are just, they don't know the future of space. There's no plan laid out. Nobody feels like they're part of it anymore. There's highly disputed facts up and down. Foreign countries like say they're doing things, but if you look up real footage, you can't find almost anything, or at least I can't. I mean, like the Chinese rover, for example. You look at those pictures, and it's just a ridiculous thing. I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone. All right, I think like the clouds just moved in pretty hard. All right, it's probably time for me to call it a night. 3:30 a.m. Thanks, everybody. Damn, 2-hour show tonight. Love it. Hexagonal craters, that's a big deal. Like, major, simple thing. Geometry kind of just doesn't allow for impacts to create these things. Same thing with like the size of these impacts. Like, where is the object that created something the size of Ptolemaeus or Tycho or anything like that? Simple questions. I could be totally wrong, but it seems like there's an alternative theory to that. Same thing with the Apollo missions. Really hard to disprove one way or another, but it's still a good thing to talk about. We should know, we should be united on that front. And then we should also know like the history of the lunar missions besides Apollo, because a lot of that stuff is kind of real, and it's miraculous science. It's unbelievable stuff because they're going out really far. So not taken away from the achievements of the corporate masters, but pretty impressive works all around. But we're here to move science forward and not just get stuck in showing old videos and being like, you guys are idiots. You guys are total idiots. Look, here come the idiots who want to ask real questions, and you know, conflating conspiracies with other conspiracies. It's obvious, like, conspiracies are very simple to prove. Apple right now has a phone that's more advanced than the phone that you have, and it's more advanced than any phone they've announced. So somebody in a little meeting had to say, hey guys, like, we have this phone, but we're not going to tell the public about it until we're ready to sell it. That's a conspiracy, any way you want to look at it. And it's happened a million times over. It happens constantly. So this idea of a conspiracy theorist, oh, I'm so bored, here comes a conspiracy theorist, is just lame behavior. And it's not going to work anymore because people are just want to know things, and they're just insulting them is not going to stop them from wanting to know things. It's just going to create divisions, and that's stupid. So that's it for me, everybody. Have a great night. I'm going to head to bed and try and catch y'all tomorrow on another stream. I'll play it out to old school one right here. Boom, Captain. Stay electric, everybody. Fantasy, F Nord, Jen Perry, Happy Honey, Somebody Somewhere, Duplicat, Justin, Sully's Girl. Who else we got? And everybody else catching this tomorrow. Peace out, everybody. All good. Stay wise. Falling around, you didn't hear me out, you broke the